Salamanders are well known for their heroic and very human nature. They are the Imperium's burning blade that purifies the corrupt in holy flame. So it was without hesitation that they came to the aid of the Largos System within the Dark Imperium in their time of need. The warp storms caused by the Great Rift cut the Largos System off from the rest of the Imperium. For the first time, they could not communicate with the Administratum, or anyone outside their worlds for that matter. So the populations panicked and rioted in terror, which was a bad idea, because the warp was much more connected to real space because of the Great Rift, and their intense emotions of terror caught the attention of entities in the Immaterium. They lit up like a candle in the darkness, and the Blood God took notice. Khorne sent one of his greatest minions to utilize the Great Rift in the Galactic North to assault the system and attempt to drown its Imperial citizens in a tide of gore. But prior to Khorne's conquest of Largos, many of the population with heightened awareness suffered horrific nightmares. It was a glimpse, a prelude of the pandemonium to come. Though they were just nightmares to a logical mind, some knew that it was just a glimpse of what was to come. Those that understood the future that was to befall them ended their own lives to avoid the ruination. Though this just assisted the demons in manifesting in real space. Molten rain peppered the hive cities and ancient volcanoes awakened, even though they'd been long dormant. And as the human populations became wholly consumed in terror, the warp storms engulfed their worlds in cascading seas of vibrant colors, hearkening the coming of the demons. Khaz'Kul, a savage bloodthirster of Khorne, materialized in the physical plane, and behind him, an entire horde of demons burst forth into reality from warp tears. The greater demon had sworn to Khorne that every single skull in the system would be his, and so began its slaughter. The planetary defense force of the planets quickly moved into action to oppose the demonic invasion, yet they were not even aware such entities existed, much less have any idea how to formulate any efficient defense. But despite the horrors, the PDF did engage the Demons of Khorne. Not that they did much good though. Khaz'Kul and his Legion of Blood bashed aside the defenders pretty easily. Though not utterly crushed, they did fight a defensive battle only. And as the PDF fled, they would move into the hive cities and continue their slaughter. The Demons of Khorne showing no mercy, pretty much murdering every single person that they came across, man, woman, child, it didn't matter. All the hivers were just being completely massacred. And the orgy of blood only strengthening the warp storms, and thus even more and more neverborn entities spilled over into real space to engage in the carnage. From the peak of the hive cities, the wealthy and powerful, to the bottom of the hive cities, the poor and weak, all were butchered equally. But with all these demons, more and more shrines to chaos needed to be erected for the glory of Khorne, or the demons wouldn't be able to stay in material space. So some mortals were spared to be utilized as slaves. However, with no food or water or given any sense of sustenance whatsoever by the demons, death was preferable to staying alive as their thralls. Once the slaves could no longer physically perform their labor or cease to be immediately useful in any way, they were either slaughtered like cattle on the spot or thrown into pits of fire to burn alive. But with every new bronze monument of Khorne erected, the demons were able to stay in real space and continue their slaughter. And at the capital of the Largos System, the astropaths grouped together in one last-ditch attempt to save billions of lives yet to be reaped by the demons. At St. Egan's Mount, a psychic beacon projector made of the arcane and ancient structure known as a chorospire, the astropaths prepared for their last act. Luckily, they had time to prepare, and the psychic wards of the facility held long enough. However, flesh hounds of Khorne eventually broke through the barriers and ripped the astropaths to gory bits. The psychic death scream was channeled through the chorospire and projected into the warp and into real space. It was the only and last option the system could possibly do to receive any help from the Imperium. And luckily, psychers on the death world of Nocturne received the astropath's vision and watched in horror at the destruction they witnessed as it passed through their mind's eye. These psychers were librarians of the Salamanders Space Marine chapter, and they immediately relayed the visions to the Regent of Prometheus, Chapter Master Tushan. He listened in grim silence as the librarians told him about the suffering of the Largos System, and it filled Tushan with a great rage. He declared that all the dead would be avenged, and if they make it in time, they'd save the survivors of the Blood God's invasion, then readied multiple companies for battle and set forth to face the demons. Tushan's librarians and astropaths had a solid psychic trail that led to the system through the warp. However, it was slowly fading. The psychic strain to hold on to the death cry became harder and harder to maintain, to the point that it was actually harmful. Warp storms from the Great Rift steadily took their toll, and the psychic stress actually ended up killing 2 of the Salamander librarians. However, the fleet also took a lot of damage in the violent journey through the Sea of Souls, and some Salamander ships were unaccounted for when they translated into real space. The fleet entered the Largos System and prepared the crusade to free the system from demonic incursion. The newly inducted Primaris Marines truly shined at the start of the battle, putting to rest some doubt that the more traditional Space Marines had for them. Vanguard Marines and Inceptors deployed from the sky, coming down to enact retribution like a hammer striking an anvil. The first wave assault, ahead of the rest of the Salamander force, hit the demons hard and allowed the rest of the Salamanders to create a drop site to which they would deploy the rest of their forces. But not long after, drop pods landed in fiery impacts, and Tushan himself led from the front against the greater demons' forces. The remaining librarians of the chapter warned Tushan of rituals that were being performed that weakened real space and would allow more and more demons not only to cross over, but remain manifested. So the chapter master made the rituals a priority of attack for the Fireborn. Not only that, but the destruction of every monument erected by the conquered populace would weaken the demonic presence in the system. But unbeknownst to them, there were more greater demons than just Khaz'gul. In fact, he had an entire little entourage of greater demons, and this is where the Hellblasters of the 5th Company would win great honor shortly after Tushan's orders. Another greater demon that served Khaz'gul was tricked into a kill zone by them and taken down in an apocalyptic storm of plasma fire. The 5th Company's gunships also played a crucial role in antagonizing the Bloodthirster to give in to its baser instincts of rage, which manipulated it into a battlefield of their choosing. Such a worthy kill would become legendary among the company's chaplains chanting rites of battle, and it was a massive blow to the demonic horde. Yet the ordinary human combatants of the system were still fighting, so Tushan organized the PDF across the system to assist in battling the demons. The ordinary humans performing bravely in confronting endless tides of horror arrayed against them. Where they had once barely been merely surviving, standing next to Space Marines as renowned as the Salamanders endowed them with an iron will and steadied their nerves at the monstrosities of Khorne they faced. The Astartes treated them with respect and value, which also greatly enhanced the morale of them and instilled a semblance of the endurance the chapter is known for. Khaz'gul had entirely overrun Hive City Reen, the industrialization being warped and twisted into servicing the Blood God. Also, the demons had forged countless tools of torture they'd been utilizing on the innocent to greater weaken real space. The sight was a horror to behold, yet Adeptus Astartes are beyond being slowed by such nightmarish sights as suffering and body horror. Without hesitation, Tushan's aggressor squads burnt each and every one of these blood factories to ashes, cleansing the chaos taint in purifying flame. Tushan moved from engagement to engagement across the worlds of the system in dozens of battles. Even while leading from the front, the chapter master organized the Salamanders in masterful stratagems that led them from victory to victory in multiple war zones. Fireborn even engaged the Neverborn in launch bays of ships orbiting the planet where demons had materialized. From the ore processing moons to Hive City's deepest depths, the Salamanders destroyed the ritual sites, empowering the demons' invasion and presence in the system. Yet despite all their victories, they'd been taking some steady casualties. And while the demons' numbers were limitless, the Salamanders were mighty, though few in comparison. The PDF military forces also were slowly dwindling, so Tushan had to press the victory if there was to be one. So the Fireborn completely focused on the destruction of the occult sites, empowering the demons, and from planet to planet and orbital station to orbital station, they cleansed the taint in fire. The Bloodthirster Khaz'gul's hold on the material plane was diminishing from the effort, So too inspired his demons to fight even harder, generated from their rage. But it was not enough. Entire packs of bloodletters vanished into nothing mid-charge against the salamanders. Fleshhounds burst into warp fire mid-jump when they were pursuing their next prey, and brass constructs fell to the ground as their organic demon aspects vanished. And in the end, only the greater demon Kazkul remained. The Bloodthirster was either unwilling to give up or fearful of returning to the warp and being punished by the Blood God for his failure. In any case, the unholy abomination remained to challenge the Salamanders. It roared out to the chapter master, challenging the warlord of the Space Marines to face him in battle. And Tushan stepped forth with a squad of his elite fire drakes and 2 remaining librarians to confront the Bloodthirster. Tushan merely asked the creature if it was ready to meet its end, and the battle commenced, with massed Stormbolter focus firing on the greater demon. Though Kazkul killed many fire drakes with an axe that was taller than Tushan himself, the Terminators equipped with storm shields used them to stem the assault as best as they could while encircling the greater demon. And when Tushan moved forward and engaged the demon in melee, a librarian was quickly cut in half by Kazkul because their psychic powers were pretty much useless against the Bloodthirster of Khorne. Though Tushan utilized the opportunity it presented, and without a word, swung his flaming sword and removed the greater demon's head from its enormous body. The corpse then slumped down limply, spouting dark fluid from the neck stump before decomposing in warp flame. The Salamanders had saved billions of Imperial lives. The PDF was still intact, and the dead had been avenged. The Fireborn cleansed the rest of the demonic taint and helped establish order before returning to Nocturne. The war was a spark of hope across the Imperium, and proof that humanity could face the darkness of the Great Rift and fight back against the endless enemies of the Emperor.